All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the instructional policy meeting this evening on this March the 6th of 2023. We'll open the meeting up with any questions on the meeting minutes from last meeting. No questions or comments on the meeting minutes? All right, we'll turn it over to Dr. Caver.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so as Mr. Alexander just stated, I'm going to share my screen, but as Mr. Alexander just stated, first, we do have the minutes there for anyone's review if you would like to review them. Again, now we'll go to discussion topics. So first, I just want to point out to the committee a few agenda items that you will see on the next board agenda. And the first one is our cooperative agreement with Mount Union for North High School. So just a reminder, we are excited to announce that we will be entering into a renewal with Mount Union for the next 3 years as a partner for us at North for the College and Career Academy. So we're excited about that. Second, item 23.5 currently is a service agreement that is for CASE, one of our IB schools, and the Firestone cluster. So they will be having professional development for their entire team this June, and this is the contract for that to take place coming up this summer. This will also be funded by their school improvement grant. The third item is 23.6, and this is a service agreement for Bookdale CLC, and this agreement has to do with some leadership development as well as staff members with ICLE, some coaching around various areas that is a part of their school improvement plan, and we'll also use SQUIG money, so School Quality Improvement Grant and Supplemental School Improvement Grant funds. This work will be around some professional learning communities, some work around strategic planning, instruction, again, and some leadership development, mentoring leaders as well. And then item 23.7 is YTRI, and it is Bookdale, is the service agreement with YTRI LLC. And this, again, is work that will be done probably over the next year, I believe, at Bookdale CLC for some in-person training with staff members around social and emotional learning. And so we are working on that as a district overall, but they have identified something that aligns specifically with their plan to focus on social emotional learning at the high school level at Bookdale. So these are business affairs items. I will stop for a moment to see if there are any questions about those areas.
I do have a quick question. It's
Yes.
not necessarily related to these per se, but back in the fall, we talked about Bookdale and whether or not it was going to try and be a new tech building or a College and Career Academy building. And then we were told in the spring that decision would be made based on some data. And I was wondering where we are with that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for asking. So we are in the process of looking at all of the details and coming up with a proposal to bring that back to instructional policy, just to kind of let you know, to inform everyone of what the final decision is based on the information from this year. I believe we were planning, Rachel, for April? Yes. Okay. So next month is one of our agenda items for April. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, my question is aligned with Val's question, but on, I think it's the service agreement as far as the 23.6 and the cultivating of leaders in order to move forward goals for the building. Is that right? So that's what I'm wondering, if it's new tech or career academies, how is that going to be, formulated to push forward? If approved, what lane would it be in? But so you're saying in April, but this is going to be on next Monday's agenda for approval, right?
Right. This information and this professional development is on next Monday's agenda.
So when would the train? I'm just curious as far as, because if a determination is made that it's going to just be career academies, then that's going to change how they're cultivating the leaders and the focus, the goals of the leaders in that building, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm kind of curious as to how will that plan roll out, and is it a projected time as when this program will roll out?
So this program will end June 30th. So the decision that we will make in regards to which direction we're going in is going to be for next school year. Okay. But this training and this plan, these funds have to be spent by the end of the school year. And so this is some professional development for their team members for this year.
Okay. And currently, the professional development, is it focusing on both both college careers and new tech?
Yeah, it's not specifically aligned to either one of the models.
Okay. That's what okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. All right. And so with no further questions, and like I said, I'm sorry, let me back up, to be continued, but we definitely have that as an agenda item for next month. Mm-hmm. So please plan for that.
So for the because there's set objectives for the training, right, as far as the building initiatives. Mm-hmm. So what are they aligned to, those objectives, if it's not to a specific, if it's not career tech or pathways? Is it just general? Is it?
So this training specifically covers broad topics. So if we're talking about professional learning communities and things like that, there is not specifically aligned to the CT.
Yeah, that kind of fleshed it out for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right, so our other topic for today is to talk about alternative programming, and this is where I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint presentation. I have some presenters in the room for us this evening, some team members that are going to help us with this topic. And I believe that I am just going to be the person that's going to advance the slides. But I do have all of our three directors here to present to us today. So Mr. Hatcher, our Director of Specialty Programs, Dr. Lash, who is our Director of Student and Family Services, and Mrs. Brady, who's here she's our Director of Special Education. And so I'm going to turn it over.
Did you want to pass the clicker down here? We can click it since we're all sitting here if you want. All right. So I have. Oh, I have to use that. All right. So we're going to talk with you today about a variety of alternative education programs that we have to offer within Akron Public Schools. And we've divided that into three different categories, the first being special education placements only, and I'll explain that in greater detail. And the second category being alternative programs that serve both general and special education scholars. And then finally, our Akron Alternative Academy. So just a little bit of background about the alternative programs. We do have a continuum of services for our students who need alternative programming. And normally what that may mean is a little more flexible learning environment, more individualized and personalized, supportive for both behavior and social emotional needs and also academics. They work in small groups, and typically the staff who work in these programs, whether it's APS staff or outside contracted staff, are more like specialists in their area. They have additional training so that they can support the very individualized needs of the students. And then all of the programs work from that ecological perspective of looking at the whole child, looking at the family and the community, and what are the needs for the students. We do offer integrated supports for both academic and behavior interventions. Some of our programs offer alternative to suspension and intensive services for students with disabilities that we cannot provide in a traditional school setting. So that's just a little bit of a summary of what we have. The first thing we're going to talk about is the special education placements. And these are placements that are an IEP team decision. These are not disciplinary placements. These are students with very intensive, significant needs that we need the entire team, including the parents, to agree to. So the first one we have is Bridges Learning Center. We've had this program for a very long time, and we serve students in grades K through 12 at Bridges. We provide intensive wraparound services and positive educational experiences for these students who have significant mental health and behavioral needs. So our students in our program, some of those wraparound services, we have counselors that are there full-time every day. We have music and art therapy. There are a variety of other services that you wouldn't find in a traditional school building. Again, staff working from that whole child perspective, using very multidisciplinary approaches to support student behavior and mental health. The teachers, these are APS teachers in this program, also receive additional professional development to be able to support these students. We have about 152 seats, and we say seats, that's just the number of students we can serve. And we try to keep those classrooms at no more than 8 to 10 students per class. Currently, that is over on Thornton Street, which we used to always call the Readinger Building because that's what formerly housed there. And we utilize that entire building for this program at this time. The next one that we have, we call the Success Program. It is also at that same building, and we do serve students K through 12. These are students with multiple disabilities and or also autism who have very, very unique learning demands, and they require the most intensive supports and specially designed instruction. Most of the students are nonverbal. They may be diagnosed with multiple conditions as well, making their learning even more difficult. We placed this program, which we just started, 4 years ago maybe, at this school because the needs of these students, even though we have multiple disability students in our traditional buildings, these students tend to have some significant behaviors that are just related to their disability. So they're not trying to attack someone or hit someone. Often it might be a form of communication or just, I don't have body awareness. So they need a placement in a more supportive environment with staff who can really provide all of that. And we keep that at only 4, maximum 5 students per class, whereas a traditional MD class would have 8 students. And then each classroom also has 2 paraprofessionals that work with the teacher and the students. So we have 4 classrooms, 2 primary, like a K2, a 3-5, a middle school, and a high school class. So many of the students that are participating in this program, in years gone by, they may have been served at a program like Blick or several others who have now closed in our area. And we had a great need to meet the needs of our scholars who are our students. So we feel very fortunate we're able to do this with a select number of students. The next one is the LEAP program, which I'm sure you've probably heard of, and this is also a K-12 program. This is a contract program, so we do sign a contract with LEAP and to provide these services. Again, these are students that it has been determined based on the data, based upon the numerous interventions that have been put in place, that we're unable to continue to provide the supports that they need in a traditional building at this time. The goal is always to reintegrate the student back out to a traditional building when they're able to do that. Again, they have very small class sizes and individual and small group learning situations. When they gain the skills, we make every effort to reintegrate the student into a traditional school. And most of these students, the difference between this and the Success program would be most of these students are what we call cross-categorical. So these are students who access the core curriculum. So normally in a traditional building, they would have been participating in some gen ed classrooms, or they may have participated in our self-contained now units, which are for behavior. So currently, we contract with the LEAP program for 35 special education seats. And again, these are IEP team decisions. So the parent, the school team, the administration, we come together to make that decision in the best interest of the student. We have another program that we also contract with called Educational Alternatives, and they do serve students from elementary through high school. It again gives, it's a learning program with enhanced behavioral, emotional, and special education services. The difference in this program is that they have enhanced mental health providers there. So it's more of a day treatment program. It looks and feels like a traditional school, but they have therapeutic services there for students with very, very significant mental health needs. This isn't just a student who needs Red Oak counseling. Some of these students have stepped down perhaps from residential placement. Their needs are that significant. And the placement there is really based upon space. This is in Summit County, and they do serve multiple counties and multiple school districts. Finally, there's just a few extra programs just for an FYI that we do occasionally contract with. Our availability of programs over the past few years, not just in Summit County, but in Portage and Stark counties, has significantly decreased. Many of the programs have been unable to sustain their programs and have closed, or they've closed enrollments. Again, these are all IEP team decisions, but we do have a couple of students at the program called KidsLink, which is in Streetsboro. We have one student at a program called Insight, which is in Westlake. And TES, Total Education Solutions, is a program that is in Akron, and we also have a few students being served there as well. And that covers everything for special education programming. Did you have any questions about any of that, Bruce?
I had a question. What does FRAP stand for? I know we have these acronyms.
Oh, FAPE. I'm sorry.
I said FAPE.
So that is free and appropriate public education. So any student with an IEP, we have an obligation to ensure that they're receiving all of the services that they need that have been identified in their IEP. So that's the reason that some of the students attend these programs, because it has been determined by the team that we cannot provide that in a traditional school setting.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next set of alternative programs that we will discuss serve our general education students and special education scholars, but these programs come by way of a disciplinary hearing or a building referral. And so the first program that we'll talk about is our SOAR program, the high school long-term placement. It is located at the OTT building. And this program, when students are placed there, really focuses on replacement behavior. So looking at the reasons why a student is placed there and putting the interventions and strategies in place to address those. Students do have to meet criteria in order to transition back to the traditional education setting, and those criteria are around academics, behavior, and attendance. And so our students are placed there for a minimum of 45 days. There are 15 seats in the morning, 15 seats in the afternoon, for a total of 30. And our students are transported there in the same manner that they would if they were in a traditional high school, and that is via the Metro. We also have long-term placement at SOAR for students in grades 4 through 8. again, located at the Ott Building. And same premise, that we are looking at behaviors and teaching skills and strategies to be successful, and criteria met with in the areas of academic, behavior, and attendance. Again, students are placed for a minimum of 45 days. Transportation is provided via our yellow school bus. And at this grade band, we have 75 seats, and typically about 15 per grade level. The next program is our SOAR Alternative to Suspension program, and this is for grades K through 3. With House Bill 318 that specifically speaks to students that are preschool through grades 3 and not being suspended unless it meets certain criteria. This is an alternative to suspension. And so students in grades K through 3 can be assigned anywhere from 3 to 5 days. They can be assigned a maximum of 3 times per semester. And for our kindergarten students, we really don't like to see them placed there prior to October 1st, just getting into school, their first experience in a school setting, really being able to transition and learn the routines of school anyway. So we like for them to have that time prior to looking at a transition or a placement there. And this is made through a building referral. We have 10 seats available, and transportation is provided. The next program, Mrs. Brady already spoke about the LEAP program, but in addition to the 35 seats that we have for students with IEPs, we also have 20 seats available for general education students. And this, again, is a contract, and I should have stated that SOAR is a contract program as well. And again, small group setting, really intensive behavioral interventions put in place for our students, and transportation is provided. So special education students, that's through an IEP team placement or through the disciplinary process again, and likewise for our general education students through the disciplinary hearing. And the next program listed here is Compass. The Compass High School program is located at the Reedinger Building on Thornton Street. And this is really like a step down from juvenile justice system. So our students that have been in the detention center or jail released, ready to integrate back into school. We want to make sure we provide the necessary supports to ensure that they will be successful. So this is a program kind of like an in-between, a bridge, if you will, a step down. And again, placement through IEP team decision or via the disciplinary process. And we have 15 seats available at our Compass program.
Thank you. And our last and final, go ahead, questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. About the Compass program. So just for clarity, because I'm completely unaware of how this works, if a juvenile is sentenced to like 6 months in a correctional facility, does Compass work with them? How is their educational needs being met? Is Compass a part of that, and then it continues on when they come out, or is it some other type of structured learning environment?
Sure, and I'll let Mrs. Brady add in there too. But if they are sentenced, they are typically receiving education in the correctional facility. So Compass is a step down. So they have been released from, they're not incarcerated.
Understand, but I guess my question is, I'm sorry, because I know it's not clear, because I'm trying to formulate it in my mind. But if they're incarcerated, right? How does that program align with what then we're offering them when they come out at a Compass? Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
We
Thank you, Val.
have a staff member who works with the court, has regular meetings, and when students are going to be released from the court system or from JDC, there's actually an exit meeting, and we participate in it, and we make a plan. In years gone by, sometimes when the students were released, they just didn't show up anywhere. We didn't know where they were, and so through working with the judge in this program, we sign them up for the Compass program before they're even released. So all of the information, and most of these students we're talking about are high school students, so they're working on credit recovery or credit acquisition, so we have all of those records, and that work is continued then with the Compass program.
Thank you, because I think it's clear what the Compass program does. I think my concern is what's the oversight for the educational process while they're in the facilities so that they have. You can answer. Okay, yeah. Because we're skin in the game. Because I can still go MIA, or if I'm locked up and I'm just perfecting my hustle or whatever I'm doing, I don't care about Compass when I come home.
And Mr. Alexander can probably say more, but I will say that for the JDC, Akron Public Schools does have teachers there and the intervention specialist as well.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and what this is, I'm proud of this because this is a program that I put together when I was the superintendent there, and we continuity. We wanted to have continuity, so when the kids left the detention facility, we knew when they transitioned back, the teachers would know where they're at, where they stand, what's going on, what work they completed, what they didn't complete. If there was I can't think of the steps they used to have. They're called. Anyhow, it was a step that they were those places. So when they got back into the school system, it'd be a smooth transition. And so we have Becky Green. Before it was Yvonne Humphrey, who I had hired to come here, and she coordinated all that. So we do with special ed, all those programs. So any kid that comes to the detention facility, no matter what school it is, that information goes back to their school, and so they can transition right on back into their regular mainstream classes.
Yeah. Well done, Mr. Alexander. Any additional questions? And rounding out our last alternative program or school is Akron Alternative Academy, and that is also known here locally as AAA. And AAA serves students who have been identified as at risk, meaning that they are in jeopardy of not graduating in the 4 years. Students may enroll as early as the second semester of their junior year, and they typically remain enrolled until they obtain a high school diploma and or age out, which is at age 22. Enrollment referrals are conducted by individual buildings or traditional buildings here. Referrals will come from counselors and or academy principals who have identified students who may stumble or fall going into their senior year or who are off track in credit accumulation. AAA will provide students with a unique opportunity or personalized approach to credit recovery, as well as provide credit advancement to get the students back on track. The ultimate goal is to get students back into their traditional environment, but we do recognize that an insulated environment is best for students to obtain their high school diploma. Students who are there attend either an AM for half of the day, or they will also elect to choose a PM schedule. And we are currently serving approximately 150 students across the district. And this program is owned and operated by APS. Questions?
This is my sweet spot, these type of discussions. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm curious about, because we know we can have data for like freshman students, they get off track, that may get off track early. Mm-hmm. And I think my only question is it a way to start something like this earlier to ensure that I like the wording, in an insulated environment, to ensure that these students graduate with their high school diploma, because we have some freshmen that then by the time they get to their 10th or junior year, they're so behind that it's easy to be discouraged to just not go.
So we did. As I mentioned at the beginning, all the students who were referred to AAA were removed from their traditional school and enrolled over at OTT. What we did was offered satellite locations at all of our traditional high schools. So any student that we would see in grades 9 through 12 that we recognize are off track from graduation, we service those students on site so that they don't have to be removed from their traditional high school environment, while at the same time offering many of the same services in one classroom located at that school.
All right, thank you. I think I misunderstood that they had to be in their junior year before
So
they
the
could.
junior year is when we start looking at a little bit different levels of support, where we may at that point refer a student from their traditional high school to the OTT building. The student that you had brought up was a freshman or a sophomore. And the ultimate goal is to keep them connected to the services at their traditional school. So what we have done was provided access to those same support services that you would find over at OTT. So we have a staff member from AAA on location at our traditional high schools, and as principals or counselors would identify those particular students are struggling, they can then elect to create a personalized schedule for those students in their actual homeschool environment.
Could a parent, like say if a counselor, just say someone slipped through the cracks or wasn't on the radar as, for whatever reason, could a parent or a child say, I think this would be best for me? Is there a pathway for that to say, I think AAA would be good for me. Can I participate in this, or is that not how it works?
Well, what we strongly encourage is that when parents see that their child is either slipping or losing ground, that they would then have that meeting with their counselor and academy principal. And then from there, they're empowered to make that informed recommendation. What it's tough is that parents may hear about some of these programs and say, oh, I think it's that. Mm-hmm. And we would recommend sitting down, having a conversation, and then identifying what is the best alternative program to reach the goal. It may be AAA, it may be some other combination of resources that we have, but it's always best if we can sit at a table, really hear what the struggles are from the family, and then identify what program is in their best interest.
Okay, so a family can't call the meeting.
They can call that meeting and go through that same process.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Thank you, team. So I do want to bring up just something that was proposed, or not proposed, but was presented to you all, I believe, not presented yet, but I just want to bring up that AAA was a program that was started before we started implementing our own online school, meaning before we opened up APS online. And so with, COVID, as well as the fact that we are now allowed to operate online schools as a part of the school district, and we weren't allowed to do that previously in the same way that it is now. We have come to find that some of the features or the way that AAA is designed qualifies up underneath our one IRN that we have, being APS online. So just wanted to kind of give you guys an update as we move into the next school year. We plan to keep the AAA program intact, operating exactly the services the way that it operates currently. The location will remain the same and everything, but we do have to combine it underneath our umbrella with the IRN that is the APS online school because of the design of the school. And like I said, once again, this program was in effect prior to us actually opening up the IRN under the new guidelines of remote learning education, not remote learning, online schooling, I should say. And so you'll see those changes as we go into the 23-24 school year, but the programming will remain the same. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, team, for that presentation today. Just wanted to kind of go over where we are, and sometimes when individuals hear of some of the alternative programming, or sometimes look at our numbers, like for some of our discipline in the district, that sometimes it may not reflect expulsions in certain areas. Of course, sometimes we do have expulsions, but also the fact that we do have alternative programs so that we can try to continue to keep our scholars receiving their education as much as possible and try to get them to the finish line. I will ask, do you have any additional questions for the team? All right. I know. It's okay. All right. Any comments by board members before we move on to updates? Okay, thank you. So I do want to point out that we have 4 updates in here for you to view. The first one is for the College and Career Academy. As always, they are in the board agenda, so anyone can review them. But one of them has to do with a scholar at Ellett, as well as scholars over at North from CCA. And then there's some information about some elementary school essential experiences that have taken place as well. Most recently, we have an FRC update for the Family Resource Center. As a reminder, we have 4 FRCs, and we always try to give an update in instructional policy every year. I do want to point out that we know it's tax season, and so the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program is taking place probably at several locations, but we did have a program at McEbright on March 1st. We also have some family engagement activities that we just want to point out for the month of March at the 4 locations. And then also there was an activity with the Read to Me Day. So I want to make sure that all FRCs are being encouraged or participating or have participated within the last week in those activities. So again, some of the good work that's happening at our FRCs in our partnership with United Way. We have a Stay in the Game update, and very soon there will be a discussion, I believe, about partnership renewal with the Cleveland Browns Foundation in regards to the Stay in the Game, program and campaign. So we will hear more about that. That's planned for March 30th. And then here are some experiences to look at. I know there was an open skate opportunity at First Energy Stadium. So you get to see some of our scholars that participated in that opportunity on February 28th. And last but not least, there's a teaching and learning update, and it describes what's going on in teaching and learning lately. We just had our last instructional improvement day of the year on Friday, March 3rd, and so the director from Teaching and Learning just decided to share some updates with you all that of the professional development that took place on Friday, which includes opportunities to talk about high dosage tutoring. Letters training continued. We've already talked about that before. Some training with iReady. Our ELA curriculum adoption, we've still had ongoing training throughout the school year. So this was probably our 4th encounter with teachers being exposed to professional development about the curriculum adoption. Some other items that are in here too from the other departments as well. And we are currently wrapping up, this isn't in here, but I'll just point out that they're currently at the final stages of the social studies adoption for next year as well. So you'll start to see that process and the materials. So that's where we are with the updates. So now, Mr. Alexander, I'll turn it back over to you. That's all the team had for you all today.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the updates, and they were good. And a couple things I thought I may have known, but I didn't know, so I got it today, which is good. Any other questions from my fellow board members? Any additional information you guys have for us at this time? Well, go ahead. Ms. Jackson.
Very brief. The letters training, do we have any update? Because I know it was some unreadiness with teachers as far as the hours of that training, and that there were supposed to be some different requirements being set down the line from the state as far as how they could get. Is it any change with that? Or are we still kind of in the same place?
So in terms of an update, we have So we were training our kindergarten and first grade teachers this year with letters. We have proceeded with that. The last that I checked, halfway through the school year, there were 4 units they have to complete in order to complete the program. And so we did a check-in around, I did a check-in around after Unit 2 around January, and we had over 90% of our staff members that were up to date with completing the training. So that's the most accurate information I have at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And we will be proceeding as of right now with 2nd and 3rd grade they are planned for next school year.
Okay, any other questions? Nothing for us to, you going to give us any other information? So, well, I guess if that's the case, then I guess I need to say we can close this meeting. Is that correct? Any objections? Ayes have it. All of us are ayes. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. And those who were watching this evening, that hopefully you got some information that you could have gained more knowledge about and have a better understanding. If not, you can contact any of these individuals here around the table. Thank you, and meeting is closed.